Hey guys, it's John from Humor and History. Hope you're all doing well. All right, this is American admits 7 things Brits do better. American. Brits do better. American. Brits do better. I think they mean than Americans in the UK. Okay, probably for title reasons. They're tight. I had to go through a minute 15 of this because she just kind of goes on. So I'm going to pick it up to I think where it starts. I just stopped it here, and I think this is a good place to start it.
Gray area. And so I wanted to create these videos where I'm just going to list some of the things that I really feel like they do better here in the UK than in the US, just so everybody knows that I do not hate the UK.
Apparently she got
However,
some
I am also going to do a video of things that the US does better than the UK, so we can argue when we get to that video. Hey guys, briefly interjecting here because I forgot to mention today's question, and today's question is, what is your favorite part about the UK?
Ooh, that's
what
a good
is your
question.
favorite part about living here? Maybe you're a Brit, maybe you are someone who is an expat here, maybe you're just a visitor and you really like the UK. Comment
is your
below and
favorite
tell me
part?
your favorite part about living here.
What is your favorite part? I am curious. For those of you who live there, what's your favorite part? Where have you been?
So the first thing, and I've done a whole video about this, is the NHS. The idea here that medical care is for all, regardless of your ability to pay, and is not a privilege but a right, is 100% better than the state of affairs in the US, which works for people who do have the means to pay for healthcare, but does not work for a lot of people who fall in different areas. The idea here that you have a child and you walk out of the hospital without paying a bill is really astounding to a lot of Americans. And after moving here and living with the NHS and getting accustomed to that way of life, obviously paying for it in other areas and your taxes and things, but
Sure.
the idea that I don't have to worry about how much the ambulance is going to cost me is a 100% something that the UK does much better than the US.
I'm going to agree 100% with this. And I have not even been there except for London for 6 hours. But I will say that you guys who have watched the channel for a while, you may know that my wife has MS. And in order to treat multiple sclerosis, you have to use types of chemotherapy and things like that. And one of the things is that her medication costs, for an infusion, costs $26,000. And that's for each time. Now, we have to battle with the insurance company to pay for that. So it ends up coming out of we have a deductible. So it means that you have to pay like up to $4,000 out of your pocket, and then the insurance starts paying for the rest. But you still have these little co-pays, still like $40 here, $50 here, $100 here, and then that's per person or per family, and they really get you there. It's kind of double dipping in our system, and I'm very jealous of that, especially now that apparently just the other day I found out that we're going to have to switch insurance companies because that's what the private company that she works for, which is ironically German, has decided to switch. So now we have to figure out how they do things, and it's frustrating emotionally.
Okay, the next thing is the cost of food in the supermarket/grocery store. So if you've ever traveled to the US as a Brit, you probably, if you stepped foot in a grocery store, would be shocked by the food prices. Here in the UK, food in the grocery store in particular is so much less expensive than in the US. Something that in the US would cost like $2 to $3 for like a loaf of bread or something would be like 50p to maybe a pound here. So when Americans are coming over and thinking about their budget for food in the UK, usually we spend a lot less than you would in the US. We spend about £200 per month on food for 2 people, and sometimes we do spend less than that. In the US, I really don't think that would get you a month's worth of food for 2 people just because of the prices. So in that way, I definitely think the UK is better than the US.
Yeah, not unless you lived on noodles.
Okay, the next thing on my list may seem a little bit trivial, but for somebody who loves French fries/chips, yes, I know they're not the same thing, British people, I do understand, but as an American, we would call anything that is a fried potato
I don't think she gives our audience enough credit that you guys know the difference between French fries and chips. And well, anyway, maybe you do. Maybe you don't. I don't know.
French fry, we wouldn't differentiate between. We don't have another word. We would just call it like thick cut French fries, maybe. Anyway, here in the UK, I feel like they pair French fries / chips with so many things that we wouldn't in the US, which I am a total fan of.
Okay.
So for instance, what they would call a chip buddy, translated into American, would be a French fry sandwich. They've got thick cut French fries on a sandwich, and
I'm getting heartburn just looking at it. I love this.
They eat it with ketchup or with salt, or someone told me the other day, like vinegar.
Vinegar?
And you literally have a whole sandwich, and the filling are French fries. I mean, does it get better than that?
I will tell you though, if you take ketchup and mayonnaise and mix them together, if you've ever had Burger King, the sauce that goes on the Whopper, that's the Whopper sauce. If you put that on there, oh man, when I was like 18 and I could handle that stuff, whew, it's good. It's also why Americans tend to be heavier.
No, it does not. Another thing they tend to pair fries with here that I've noticed is they will have pizza and fries as one meal. Pizza and chips, they would call it.
Really?
That's not really a combo that we do in the US. We would maybe have...
Sounds good though.
Maybe you would have pizza and garlic bread, so we do get like the double carbs in there.
That,
but
yeah.
Pizza and fries would just... it's just seen as like a weird combination, but it's the best combination, because what could possibly be better than eating an entire meal of pizza and fries? So I feel like the US should really get on board with this.
Yeah, that
I'm not saying
sounds
people
good.
don't do it. I'm just saying it's definitely not a popular combination that people automatically go to. And I really feel like this is one of the best things the UK has done for the world.
I would probably say that I'm not saying the U.S. doesn't know about this, but I do think that they probably don't really know about this. But we tend to be a fast food society. Time is an essence for us. We try to our days are like packed. You wake up, go, 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 go. And if you're lucky, you get some time in the evening. So a lot of the food tends to be fast food. It seems like this would be the worst of the fast foods. But it could be very wrong. But it sounds intriguing. What's your favorite fast food, if you don't mind me asking?
Okay, the next thing that is much better in the UK than in the US is public transportation, or what they would call public transport for short. You can get around almost the whole of the UK by trains, boats, buses. You don't have to have a car. Obviously, in the more rural areas, it is definitely like much more convenient to have a car. Tons of people drive and not just rely on public transportation. But the point remains that if you lived in a lot of places in the States and you didn't have a car, you would have almost no options.
True.
Here in the UK, you can live in a lot of places without a car. And I'm not just talking about London. I'm not just talking about cities. You could live in a more suburban area and have plenty of buses that are going to connect you to your town and to surrounding towns that are relatively, on time, on a good schedule. In the US, I'm used to bus transportation. Where I'm from in Florida, basically non-existent. And if it is existent, it's just not something that people take. It's not necessarily reliable. Here, public transportation is often used, is popular, is reliable, and obviously it's easier to link a smaller country than all of America. But it is what it is, and the UK wins for that one.
I would give 100% for you guys for that. I think it's better for the environment. It's better just all around financially. The U.S. is a very automobile-centric society. Public transportation is just, there's not really much of it. And people don't even actually really think about it unless you can't afford a car or car insurance or something like that. And we could get into it, go down a rabbit hole, but I know we've done that in other videos. But she's right. She's really right. I think that's a fantastic point. I think it is a great one for the UK.
The next thing that's better in the UK than in the US is the type of roofs that they have on their homes. Only because in the US, we are used to needing to replace our roof like every 10 to 15 years, I think it is.
Yep.
Particularly the area where I'm from in Florida, this is a common way to do roofs. In the UK, you don't necessarily think about replacing your roof. No one's ever brought that up in like the house buying process of this roof will need to be replaced or anything like that. So I'm not entirely sure the differences between the roofs. I know here they have like much thicker like blocks that they use on the roof, whereas in the US we kind of use like these flimsy roof tiles.
Shingles.
It could also be they're not exposed to the same amount of extreme weather as in the US. I know in Florida we have to contend with like hurricanes and the heat and things like that. It's a bit more mild here in the UK, so maybe that plays into it. But overall, your roof is not going to be like a huge expense that you have to shell out for as soon as you buy your house, and you don't really have to factor that into your budget. So it's a very specific thing, but it is something that's better here in the UK. Okay.
So yeah, we do have these things called shingles. They're these sort of, they're about this size, and they come in a group, and they're all kind of a little floppy. Not terribly floppy. You can pull it up maybe about that far, and they get put on, and the reason for that is that it can. Well, to be honest with you, I'm not 100% sure why we don't even do what you guys do in the UK. We do have to replace them quite a bit though, because it's just a piece of plywood. It's just flat wood that goes across the top of the house, and creates the roof like this. Excuse me. And the shingles go on there. But what happens is that, at least where I'm from in Pennsylvania, we got a lot of snow. And then during the day, the sun comes out and the snow melts. A lot of times this happens. It's very common in the winter. And so what happens is then everything starts to melt down the roof and collects towards the bottom. We have a gutter, right? It collects towards the bottom. And then at night, that water refreezes, and it freezes up into the shingle, and it ruins the roof, and it gets in behind. And it ends up, causing leaks and all sorts of stuff. So they get rid of the roof every, I don't know, it could be 15, 25 years that we put a new roof on. That's about a $10,000 expense. I don't know. I think that's an interesting thing. The expense of putting on, like that sort of adobe or stone or clay, I guess it would be like a hard clay, is very expensive. And so for a society like ours, which we build a lot of houses and they build them quickly in succession, you get people that put up developments. It's cheaper for them to do it this way. So I think that's ultimately the way it goes.
Okay, the next thing that's better in the UK is work-life balance. So in America, we definitely have a go-getter culture, which I do like in some ways, but when it comes to the work-life balance, it's not good whatsoever. We have, we don't have federal required vacation time or holiday time, as they would say here in the UK. Lots of companies will have like an allocated number of sick days, and after you reach the end of your sick days, then you have to start using your vacation time, or you basically don't get paid. Here in the UK, most companies, like if you're sick, you're sick. Obviously, if it's an ongoing problem, they'll work with you, but you're not freaking out that you're going to use up all of your time. In fact, there is a rule, I believe, that if you are on holiday, if you're using holiday time and you get sick or ill, as they say here, because getting sick in the UK is like throwing up, but Americans say getting sick to mean getting ill. If you get ill during vacation time or holiday time, I'm pretty sure you can like claim back part of those holiday days and use your sick day and just take it as a sick day instead. But in general, there's not this hustle culture of you need to, like dedicate your entire life to your job. I think people here recognize that there is more to life than work. And I mean, obviously the cultures play into it and what we prioritize and what we see as important in life and important qualities to have as a person. But definitely in the UK, you're not always worried that you're going to lose your job because of something stupid. It's pretty difficult to actually fire somebody here after they've worked here for a long time, and you just have a better work-life balance overall in many areas. And the last difference
I'm gonna take a note on that one. I used to be, well, a little bit more than a manager. for a company, and yeah, you get, and this was 20 years ago, you would get about 15 days of vacation time, and you could use 5 sick days. That was not fun because you know what? It was really frowned upon to even take any of these. You were a good employee if you didn't go on vacation and you didn't get sick. Like it was, I mean, in retrospect, you know, because I was in my 20s then. In retrospect, what a crazy attitude. You know, devote your entire life to the company, and then you're company minded, and that's how you move up. And that's a very American way of looking at things, which is, it stems from the 1950s, from, you know, men going out and working, women staying home kind of thing. But it's changed, and that old way still sticks around, and it's a tough one. They don't encourage vacations whatsoever, and it's a very, very different culture. Very different culture there. Yeah, and people will use any excuse to fire you. You're irking them. You know, you have a constant, you know, thing going on that is maybe, you know, legitimate or whatever, a family thing, and they're just like, nope, get rid of them. It's tough.
I came up with, again, might seem more trivial, but it has to do with a UK plug. So a UK plug.
Yeah, I know about this.
I'll show you. If you're an American, this is what a UK plug looks like. Right. So it actually has this third bit. So if you can kind of see, 1, 2, and 3. A US plug only has 2 plug-in things. Is that the official term? So plugs here tend to stay in the wall a lot better than in the US, where it can be a problem for them falling out if they're pretty loose or get knocked by something. A UK plug is like not falling out of whatever it's plugged into. And again, it's a small thing, but something that I have noticed and I do think is better in the UK than in the US.
Okay, so we do have the third, what's it called? The ground, I guess. And that is, it's only in some things that we don't have that. But it is apparently standard in the UK, so that's pretty cool. Let me know what you guys think. Did you learn anything new? Do you have any? I'm just curious about what your thoughts are on this. I'll talk to you guys soon. This is John from Humor and History, and I'll see you next time. Yes, my hair is still green because the kids are still winning at soccer. You know, football.